It seems like this whole Bible has been about upending our assumptions. Travel and geo don't tell the whole story. And in the case of the new Ibis Mojo, neither do the wheels.
I gotta say, I was a bit surprised with this Ibis.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. You know, I judged the book by its cover. It's got these big 2.6 tires. It kind of gave me the impression that it was maybe a bit pedestrian, and that was far from how this bike rode.
Yeah, well it's funny because like, I ride 2.6 tires a lot, but I ride them on 30 mil wide rims.
Yeah.
And,
That 35 mil rim was very wide.
and like I took a look at this bike and I was like, oh, that's a plus. Does plus still exist?
Yeah,
like, are we
right.
doing plus again?
Yeah.
What's going on here?
This bike used
And-
to be a plus.
I
Like,
know, you
remember
did,
it was
yeah.
a 2.8.
I actually
think.
liked it. I actually gave it a good review.
You know, and I think the reason I was a bit nervous about that is because these 27.5 bikes with this kind of a bit steeper geometry, shorter travel, it kind of has that shreddy, shroupy kind of personality, and that doesn't necessarily match with that bigger tire setup.
Yeah, there's a couple corners, one in particular on our test course where you can like really push into it.
Oh, yeah.
And I folded the tire like almost off the rim.
Yeah.
You ran way more pressure, but then you're like,
I sacrificed.
to sacrifice,
Yeah.
you know, so that you could like do that, but then, you know, you're losing traction everywhere else, right?
Yeah.
So I think with this combo, it's weird. Like you do want a little bit of tire movement, like the roll, so that you can get traction, push into stuff, and do those shroupy, fun, little playful things.
Yeah, but
And
then
you
to
can
be
get it with a different setup. Like Ibis does offer that customization, so you can get their 28 mil rim. You can get a Maxxis Assegai with it. So I mean, there's some options there.
Yeah,
if
and
this
that's
isn't-
great, yeah. But at the same time, the climbing was
Unreal.
Yeah.
It was just so good. Like,
So
you could just
efficient.
tractor up everything.
Yeah.
So like the traction that those tires gave was phenomenal, right? And then
Absolutely.
you combine that with the DW Link and the way that the Ibis tunes their DW Link is like this. They've really, really dialed it. It's a magic carpet, you know. Like it's,
Yeah.
we like to say hover bike, and it's like it hover bikes better than almost anything out there. You can keep pedaling and just hit stuff, and you don't feel it. There's no feedback, and you never have to lock the thing out. I don't think I locked it out. I mean, I locked it out to test to see how the
Yeah,
lockout felt.
I
but-
rode it mostly in that middle kind of trail mode, and it
Yeah.
felt great on the climbs.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an incredibly balanced feeling suspension and super efficient on the climbs, and then on the downs you have this kind of bottomless feel. Like it really doesn't ride as the numbers would suggest. You felt like you had more there, and I didn't feel like I was really reaching the bottom of the travel on the rear end there.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, I'm riding a 150 bike, you know,
Yeah.
but you climb it and it feels like a 130 bike, or maybe even less, right? Like,
Yeah.
I personally would give a slight edge to the Furtado 5010. I just felt like with that piggyback shock, it just felt on the rough descent specifically,
Okay.
just felt slightly more supportive if I were comparing the two.
I mean, all that being said, I had an amazing lap on this bike, and it's just got these really kind of nimble qualities about it. You know, it really wants to play, pop, and it gives you that fun feeling, despite the fact that I maybe wasn't in love with that tire rim combo. You know.
Simple enough, right? If you're not looking for that rock crawler experience, get the narrower rims and tires. That's one of the benefits of buying an Ibis. They're assembled in the town of Santa Cruz, so they can make those changes. And if you've ever ridden there, you can tell this bike was designed in Santa Cruz. The Mojo is as agile as they come.
A big part of that is, you know, short rear end, nice long reach. I think 45 for the reach.
45, that's long, for
Yeah,
sure.
definitely.
This bike came with a 50 millimeter stem, and with a 45 reach, you actually could go shorter, I think, on the size large, because it's longer than most
Totally.
bikes in this
Yeah,
category and
this-
stuff. It's,
yeah.
it's
For
pretty
sure.
rangy, right? I remember getting on it and feeling like, wow, yeah, I'm out there.
I'd go shorter, but you know, 50 isn't long.
It's not
so,
long.
Yeah.
That's the tiniest little detail, but you know.
Yeah, nice roomy cockpit, and the controls are great. Those SLX brakes were awesome.
Yeah.
And that Revive dropper post, I mean, that whole cockpit was really, really tidy and just felt dialed. You know?
Everything worked great.
That bike yoke dropper, So for a medium, you can get a 160, which is kind of rare. Like it seems like mediums are always coming with a 150. So I really liked their choice on that dropper, and it worked amazingly.
Yeah, it's got this super light actuation and a super quick return. It's a really nice feel on that.
Yeah, and those bike yoke revives are not cheap. They're like one of the spendiest posts on the market. So it's a really good to see that offered.
And I do want to mention price, because we had the carbon wheel upgrade, but with the aluminum wheel, it's $5,400, which for factory suspension, SLX drivetrain, that bike yoke dropper, I mean, I think it's a really good value for.
Actually,
Actually was really surprised about that.
And I love the Shimano drivetrain, and the gear steps between the gears on their like 1051 cassette is really nice, because it goes from a 51 to a 46, and you're like, it always seems like you're in the right gear, whereas with the SRAM 52, that jump between those first two gears is big.
I found I could use that, I could sort of pedal up those longer slogs in the 46 and use the 51 as more of a bailout than I could on the other cassette. I mean, I was still bailed out a lot, don't get me wrong. But I was more comfortable in that 46, kind of grinding it out, than I was in a 40. Like, I just couldn't do it in the 42, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah. Something that I noticed was, I feel like the sag range is like, there's like more of a bigger sweet spot for you to play around in, while like the bike is still pedaling really efficiently. Like with some bikes, if you don't get the sag just spot on, it's like either really too bouncy or really too firm. And this one, it almost seems like there's more of a range where it feels really good.
Yeah.
And it almost gives the user a little bit more control over how they want it to feel.
Yeah.
And I really think that's a cool feature.
Yeah, it's a really exciting bike. I mean, it really had me rethinking just kind of what's on the market, and so much of the conversation is these bikes that just are purpose built to go fast, and I don't know if that's always the answer for people.
Mountain biking is supposed to be fun.
It's supposed to be fun, and if you look at a bike that's going to help you build the skills and learn how to be a really technical, precise rider, I don't know if the long travel option is always the option. And some of these short travel bikes just bring out that fun factor. They kind of they make you feel like you're maybe 10 years younger.
Well, like I was saying to you guys earlier, a lot of women still who I hear from are still really hesitant about 29ers. They feel like they're going to be too big, too cumbersome, too bulky on the trail, and you're not going to feel like that at all with a bike like this,
Yeah.
And it's just like such a good all-arounder, I think, for a lot of people.
It says a lot that a short travel 27.5 bike, probably the fastest shrinking category in mountain biking, actually can be a good bike for a lot of people. I mean, what's the world coming to? If we can't trust our assumptions, what can we trust? If this wasn't enough to convince you, we've got the full written review and the rest of the Bible of Bike Test videos at bikemag.com.